Oh hey there lads, my name is Lossy. Thank you again for checking out one of my videos. Before we dive into the conversation, maybe tickle that subscribe button. I'd like to welcome all of you new subscribers that have joined the channel this past week. It's good to see the Battlefield content gaining more traction now that interest rises once again. In today's video, I want to address two tweets made by former DICE developer Kertz. They were in response to my video I released yesterday, so make sure you give that one a watch before going on with this one. To quickly recap though, several surveys were sent out by an official EA email address to Battlefield players around the world. There were different versions of the survey, each alternating the questions, focusing on different things per player. Some focused on what sort of cosmetic items we would like to see in the next Battlefield game, some wanted to gauge our interest in a free-to-play mode, others wanted to see how we feel about clans or platoons. If I compile a list of the items that you lads shared with me yesterday, this is roughly what we're looking at. Yes, there's probably other items in other survey variants that I haven't seen publicly shared yet, but for now, these are the main headlines. This is where Alan comes in. Alan has voiced his opinions on Battlefield in the past few months, and they're always very insightful. While Alan has been a major key figure in Battlefield development for years, he had no input when it came to whatever Battlefield is coming up next. He's moved on from DICE. What he shares online though is very telling. In a response to my thank you tweet yesterday evening, Alan replied with this: "It's way too late for any of those things to be included at launch if they aren't already in development. Either this is future content or there is too much to do and this is a tool to prioritize what to cut." This is very interesting, and honestly, it is a concern that crossed my mind as I worked on yesterday's video. Why would EA and DICE want feedback on content this late into development? The logical response is, well, they're not talking about the next Battlefield game. This is clearly feedback that'll be taken on board for future games. But I'd argue that in each survey, it does actually state that this feedback is for the next Battlefield game. So why? Why take this feedback this late? Well, this was my reply to Alan. I mean, you certainly have more of an idea of what's going on. My take is that EA are purely testing the waters, figuring out what some of the player base think of certain things, but yeah, maybe it's about finding the weakest link. Still though, as Alan points out, it is much too late to implement these features. Roughly, give or take 6 months from launch, the next Battlefield game is playable with a good chunk of its content locked down. Now, things are still going to be worked on right up until the last minute, and like most games nowadays, I'm sure the work will continue even after the game goes gold, and we'll have a lovely day one patch waiting for us. But it's far too late to add substantial features like the ones brought up in the surveys. This is Alan's response to my follow-up tweet. You test the waters years before launch, a few months before you're hedging bets. It's a good way to do it, because then you're literally asking the community what is most important. Taking Alan's tweets into consideration, it sort of changes my expectations. When I first read through the surveys, I was pretty excited to see EA considering so many really cool features, but now I feel as though it may represent a means of finding out what the community wants the least. There is a silver lining, however. EA wouldn't get feedback like this without having the features worked on in some shape or form. My best guess, and that's all it is that EA and DICE want to take this feedback on board, create a better Battlefield game with more community feedback intertwined in development, but prioritize the work. 6 months from release, what has to be there on day one? Not to necessarily say the content will be cut entirely, just what needs to be done first. That's where I'd love to hear your opinions. Taking the list I've compiled, what do you consider absolutely essential? Take into consideration that, in this magical world, EA and DICE will 100% implement everything on the list. It's just a case of what order they do it in. Let me know what order you want down below in the comment section. I'm curious to see how many of you want the same things on launch day. Like always, and like I mentioned in yesterday's video, because these items are on a survey, it doesn't mean they'll be in the next game. That goes without saying, really. It is, at the end of the day, another means of getting player feedback. This is very important. I don't want any of you expecting these things at launch or at all. I think that needs to be made clear. But anyway, thank you lads for watching. If you enjoyed, then massage that like button or hit dislike if you didn't. Until the next one though, I'll see you lads later.